Hello, and welcome to today's Hangout. This is Dr. Sheila. We will take just a couple of minutes to let people who are still logging on to the webinar to join us. And while we're waiting, I just want to take a moment to introduce myself to you, to introduce Tame Your Appetite to you. Most of the people who are joining us for today's Hangout aren't either new to me or new to the idea of mindful eating. So while we wait for everyone else to come on board, let's just chat a little bit about who I am and what this program, Tame Your Appetite, and what this Hangout/webinar is all about. So first, let me introduce myself to you. I'm Dr. Sheila Foreman. I am a mindfulness-based eating awareness training instructor. That's a mouthful. MB-EAT is mindfulness-based eating awareness training, and I am an instructor. I am also a psychologist, and as of today, which is September 6th, 2019, I am licensed as a psychologist in the state of California. However, what I do with Tame Your Appetite, with mindful eating, what we're going to be talking about in today's Hangout, is not psychotherapy. This is not a therapeutic relationship or even a therapeutic model. This is what I like to call psychoeducational or even coaching. And it's an approach to eating that can help you manage emotional eating, mindless eating, and your weight, if weight management is an issue for you. But it's not psychotherapy, even though I am a psychologist. And many people call me Dr. Sheila or just Sheila. You're welcome to call me either of those. It's fine with me. Let me see. Let me give people a little bit more time to log on because we are not quite where we expected to be. So I think people are still logging on. Okay. Let me tell you a little bit about Tame Your Appetite. First of all, TAME, T-A-M-E, stands for the art of mindful eating. So Tame Your Appetite is a mindful eating program designed to help you go from mindless munching and emotional overeating to peace with food and healthy mindful habits. And it's my mission to help people who binge and or emotionally overeat successfully manage their weight by teaching them mindful eating habits. And so what we're going to do in today's Hangout is a brief introduction to mindful eating, what it is, and give you some tips on how to get started with it. And then should you be interested in learning more, I can tell you what your next steps can be. All right, it is about 2.5 minutes into our Hangout, so why don't we get started for those of you that arrived on time. And again, excuse me, I to navigate my little mouse here. I think you can see that. There we go. Sorry. There we go. Pardon me for that. I hit the wrong button. This is me. I'm Dr. Sheila Foreman. As I said, I'm an MB-EAT instructor and founder of Tame Your Appetite, the art of mindful eating. And let's just begin with a basic conversation about what is mindful eating. And before I give you the definition that I use and some of the characteristics or qualities of it, just take a moment for yourself and think about when you hear the term mindful eating, what does it mean to you? What gets conjured up in your imagination? Maybe you've had some experience with mindful eating. Maybe this is a beginning introduction for you. But just take a moment, and I'll give you a moment. If you have some paper, if you want to jot it down. If not, just think about it. When you hear the term mindful eating, what does it mean for you? Are you ready? Have some ideas? Let me give you my understanding of mindful eating and how I use it in the work that I do to help people develop this skill. For me, mindful eating is, first, eating with awareness and attention, giving yourself permission to eat whatever you want, whenever you want, as long as you do so on purpose and in cooperation with your body's needs and wants. Mindful eating is allowing you to trust your body to direct you to the right foods and amounts, rather than taking direction from some diet book or expert. And mindful eating is, from my point of view, very liberating and will free you up to create the life you really want to have. We're going to take a little bit deeper look at each one of these, but were any of these definitions in your list? Is this what you thought about when you thought of mindful eating, or did you have something else in mind? When I say that mindful eating means eating with awareness and attention, what I mean is that we are paying attention during the time that we are eating. That's one of the primary differences between mindless and mindful eating. When we're eating mindfully, we are paying attention. Mindless eating would be eating while you're distracted, eating while you're doing a lot of other things. Maybe you are answering emails and munching on a sandwich, or even the movies. You're in the movies and you're eating popcorn, and before you know it, you've reached the bottom of the popcorn bucket, and you don't really remember having eaten all those kernels. When we eat mindfully, we eat with awareness, and oftentimes that means eating without distraction, although not all the time, but it means eating without distraction. And it also means by eating with intention, meaning in that moment when you are choosing to eat, you're choosing to eat, and that is the purpose for you in that moment. The next part of the definition is giving yourself permission to eat whatever you want, whenever you want, as long as you do so on purpose and in cooperation with your body's needs and wants. One of the liberating things about mindful eating, one of the things that helps me express that mindful eating really leads to peace with food, is that there are no rules. There's no, you have to eat this, you can't eat that. You give yourself permission to eat whatever it is that you might want to eat. Now, just a little caveat, of course, if you have medical conditions where you absolutely cannot eat something, for perhaps you have celiac disease, for example, and ingesting gluten could be life-threatening, obviously, then you don't give yourself permission to eat gluten. You stick with your guidelines for your celiac disease diet. But those specific kinds of examples notwithstanding, with mindful eating, all foods are available. All beverages are available. But the condition is that when you make your choice about what you want to eat, you do so with intention and purpose and awareness. And you do that in cooperation with what your body requires, what your body needs, what your body wants. And one of the primary skills inherent in mindful eating is what we call inner wisdom, and that is really getting in touch with your body so that your body signals for hunger and fullness, that your body's direction as to what to eat, when to eat, how much to eat, become clearer and clearer to you. And the more you're able to hear them and then follow them, the more mindful your eating will become, and the healthier eating will become relative to what your body needs and wants. This brings us to the third bullet point on this slide, allowing you to trust your body to direct you to the right foods and amounts rather than taking direction from some diet book or expert. So instead of opening up a book and realizing that according to this expert, you have to have 4 ounces of protein and 3 ounces of carbs and 2 tablespoons of fat, what does your body need? Allowing your body to direct you and trusting that it will direct you to the right foods and the right amounts. That maybe in a moment, if that diet tells you you're supposed to have, I know like right now, keto diets are very popular, and I think that they tend to have a little bit more protein. So maybe you are obligated to have a particular amount of protein with a particular amount of fat in this moment. But really what your body craves, wants, is an apple, which is contrary to what your diet book or diet expert is telling you to. With mindful eating, you learn to trust that in that moment, if what you are urged from the inside, if what your inner wisdom, if what your body is directing you to is an apple, that is a better choice for you than the keto snack that might be prescribed by the diet that you're on. And when you add all of this up, the mindful eating program and the mindful eating process is very liberating, because you're no longer confined to the dictates of a diet. You can now trust yourself to be wherever you need to be, to do whatever you need to do, and be comfortable around food, knowing that you can feed yourself in a way that's appropriate for you. And that frees up a lot of time and a lot of energy to create the life you really want to have. Most of my professional life as a psychologist has been working with people with a variety of eating-related issues, weight-related issues, some true blue eating disorders, some people who just engage in compulsive or binge eating kind of behavior, some people who only have maybe a little bit of excess weight on their body, and yet they still feel compelled to diet or to change how they are around food. And boy, does that take up a lot of time and energy. And when you can let that go and develop these mindful eating habits so that they become second nature to you, boy, you've got a lot more time and energy to focus on getting another degree if that's what you want, or building up your garden, or I don't know, painting a painting or training for a marathon, whatever it is that brings you joy in your life. Now, when you eat mindfully, when you actually choose to adopt a mindful approach to eating, this is what happens. First, you are aware of your body's hunger and fullness signals. Then you assess your body's need for food, not based on the time of day, not what the clock says, but rather on your own body's needs. When you are eating mindfully, you notice what your body is hungry for, and you choose to provide your body with that. We can use the apples versus keto example that I gave you a moment ago. And again, you eat based on what is best for you and your body, not what the clock, a diet plan, or a habit dictates. So when you become aware of your body's hunger and fullness signals, you are cued in to your body's inner wisdom, and you use that going forward as a guide. If you're hungry, you eat. When you feel full, you stop. And I know that it's not as simple as I just said it, but it's definitely a skill that you can learn. And I spent a lot of time on mindful hunger and mindful fullness. We're going to take a little bit of time today to look at that. But the better you are at hearing your body, feeling your body, listening to your body, and honoring it, the closer you will get to whatever that natural healthy weight is for you, whatever that right weight is for you, because you'll be eating with response to what your body requires, what your body needs, not by something else, including the clock. And I'm sure that many of you, myself included, would say, oh, it's noon, it's time for lunch. Well, before I became a mindful eater, I would just eat because it's lunchtime. But now I'm thinking, you know what, I'm not really hungry for lunch. So I'm going to choose not to have lunch, even though it's quote unquote lunchtime. And I will wait until I'm hungry, and then I will have my lunch. Now, I know that that's not always practical. And when we do deeper dives into managing hunger mindfully, we can talk about that. But that's just sort of the general premise of it. So you notice when your body's hungry and what it's hungry for. The idea that, I'll give you an example for myself this morning. I was feeling a little bit hungry before starting this webinar, but I didn't really want a full meal. I had had some breakfast a couple of hours before. I wasn't quite ready for lunch, but I knew I wanted something. So I took a moment and I just sat and I asked myself, what did I want? And a green smoothie popped into my head, just a little vision of a green smoothie. So I went to my kitchen. I'm doing this webinar from my home office. I went down to my kitchen and I threw some spinach and some bananas and some strawberries and a little bit of protein powder and some almond milk into my blender, blended it up, made myself a green smoothie. It was perfect. It was exactly what I needed in that moment. And so by recognizing that I had some hunger, recognizing what I was hungry for, and then choosing to provide it, was very satisfying, both psychologically and physically. And we'll talk more about that in a little bit. So again, when you eat mindfully, you are eating based on what is best for you and your body, not what the time of the clock says, not because you're following some diet plan, or not because you have a habit. You know, I know people who always eat the same thing all the time. To me, that's habit. I don't know that your body necessarily needs the same thing all the time. And when you become a mindful eater, you determine that. Maybe your body does. Maybe your body functions best with a slice of toast every morning. My father had 2 slices of toast with margarine and jam, strawberry jam, every morning. That was his breakfast, unless we were doing something special. And I realized that was just his habit. Was that exactly what his body needed? He wasn't a mindful eater. That mindful eating was not in vogue back in the day when he was, was sitting having family breakfast when I was growing up. But that was a habit. That's an example of a habit. Maybe his body did require that combination of nutrients. I don't know. But when you become a mindful eater, you start to tune into that, and then you make choices based on what you're learning. Now, please note that mindful eating is not about perfection. It is about awareness. It is about becoming aware of your hunger and your fullness, becoming aware of your preferences and your habits, becoming aware of your choices and your decisions. Eating mindfully does not mean that you will never eat when you are not hungry. It means that when you do so with awareness. You do it consciously rather than unconsciously. So it may be, a Saturday afternoon and you're out with some friends and, you pass an ice cream parlor and you're not really hungry. You're not hungry, But there's the ice cream parlor, and the ice cream looks wonderful, and it's a very festive, fun moment. All your friends are going in, and you're going to go grab some ice cream. Of course, have ice cream. Why not? If you like ice cream, if you enjoy ice cream, pick your favorite flavor, get a scoop of it, eat it mindfully, which I'll teach you in just a moment. But just know that you're doing it with awareness. You are making the choice in this moment, even though you're not hungry, to enjoy an ice cream cone. That's mindful eating. It's about awareness. Just keep that word awareness. Am I aware? Am I paying attention? Or am I acting habitually or unconsciously or reactively? That's really the key. Now, the way that I teach mindful eating, and again, it's based on the MB Eat program that was created by Dr. Jean Christeller at Indiana State University, uses meditation as a tool. And this is one of the ways in which my mindful eating program differs from other mindful eating programs, also differs from intuitive eating. You may be familiar with intuitive eating. Intuitive eating is fantastic. It does help you tune into your body's needs, and I strongly recommend it. But with mindful eating, we're adding yet another layer. We're using meditation as a tool to help us become more mindful in general and more mindfully eating in particular. So with the Tame Your Appetite program, what I recommend and what I teach people is to have a daily mindful meditation program or practice. And you can just start with 5 minutes a day. And if 5 minutes feels like too much, then we can certainly start with 1 minute and then build. Ultimately, a daily 30-minute practice is ideal because you get many, many benefits from mindfulness meditation. In addition to changing your eating habits, it can calm you down, it can reduce anxiety, it can reduce stress and depression, it can help you make better decisions. It can address certain physical ailments like blood pressure, things like that. So it's a wonderful, wonderful tool and skill to build, but just start with 5 minutes. And again, if 5 minutes feels like too much, then do less. Just start with a minute. And when a minute feels comfortable, go up to 2 minutes. You can even start with 1 minute and the next day do 2 minutes and then 3 minutes. But I would recommend a daily practice. So for now, in this little hangout, let's just do a brief meditation. I'm going to do it for about 3 minutes or so not very long. And basically what I'm going to ask you to do, and I'm going to do this too, is I'd like you just to sit up in wherever you are, if you're on a chair, or even if you're lying down, just be a little bit more up so that you are more present. It doesn't have to be stiff or strict or anything like that. Just sort of sit up. Let your feet rest on the ground. If your feet don't quite touch the ground, then maybe put a little pillow or something underneath it. If you're lying down, that's perfectly okay. Just try not to fall asleep. But if you fall asleep, that just tells us that you need rest, and you can address that tonight. But just for the next 3 minutes, allow me to walk you very briefly through a mindfulness-based meditation. So now that you're in your comfortable position, all I'm going to ask you to do is, if you're comfortable, to close your eyes. If you're not comfortable closing your eyes, then simply lower your gaze down to the floor in something that we call a soft gaze. And with your eyes closed, just want you to take a nice, slow, deep breath. Take that breath in through your nose, and then you can let it out again, either through your nose or through your mouth, wherever you're more comfortable. And just repeat that. Do that maybe 2 or 3 times. Take a breath in. Nice deep breath. Fill up your diaphragm. Notice your belly expanding a little bit, maybe your chest expanding. And then exhale it. Take another deep breath in. And what you're doing with this breathing is 2 things. First of all, you're starting to center yourself, meaning that you're coming into the moment, gathering sort of your energy and your thoughts that were all over the place before we started this meditation, and just coming to the present moment, into the chair, the cushion, or the bed, wherever you are. And the second thing that you're doing is you're starting to learn to focus your attention on your breath. In mindfulness meditation, we do that. We focus our attention on our breath. So we focus our attention on our breath such that when our mind wanders away from the breath, which it will, absolutely positively, as soon as you notice it, whenever you notice it, just come back to your breath. So I'm going to get quiet for just a little bit, and I'm going to allow you just to breathe and keep your attention on your breath. And whenever you notice that your mind has wandered to anything at all, to even when is this 3 minutes going to be up, whatever it is, as soon as you notice it, just bring your attention back to your breath. So take a few deep breaths on your own, and then I'll be back. If your mind has wandered, just bring it back to your breath. Now, if your mind has wandered again, simply bring your attention back to your breath. Bring your attention back to yourself, to your position in the chair, on the cushion, or on the floor. And when you are ready, open your eyes. You did it. You meditated. Congratulations. That was just about 3 minutes from start to finish. And if you can do something like that every day going forward, you will start to develop a daily meditation practice. And as I said, that's a core element of mindfulness-based eating. It's a core element of my Tame Your Appetite programs. And there are many, many, many other psychological and physical benefits of having a daily meditation practice. So good for you. You did great. Now let's move on briefly to some aspects of mindful eating. And I do see some questions coming through. That's great. There will be a question and answer session after I present the material, and I will answer these questions, so I am keeping track of them. So we're going to look at aspects of mindful eating, including mindful hunger, fullness, satisfaction, and choices. Let's start with mindful hunger. We've already mentioned that briefly. Okay. So mindful hunger is this. It's knowing, first of all, when you are hungry. And it's knowing how you know you are hungry. Now, for me, I know that I am hungry and really have to eat something when I lose concentration. When I find myself rushing through something that I'm reading or that I'm writing, or if I find myself needing to go back over something. Sometimes I might be watching a show on television or something, and then I'm just not concentrating on it. And now that we have the features where we can rewind and go forward, I find myself doing that. So I know for myself, oh, excuse me, there's a lot of noise in the background right now, and I apologize for that. I apologize. As I mentioned, I'm doing this from my home office, and unfortunately, it is not silent. So I apologize for that. I hope that you can hear me over the noise in the background. So let's just talk about what mindful hunger is, knowing when you are hungry, knowing how hungry you are. And for me, as I said, it's about concentration. And then I would wonder if for you, if it might be maybe that you get a headache or that you get irritable, maybe you get some growling in your stomach. So mindful hunger is knowing when you are hungry and how you know you are hungry. And you might not know right now. Think about it for a moment, but you might not know. It's also about knowing how hungry you are and how hunger changes when you eat or drink something. Now, I mentioned earlier that before I was getting ready to start this Hangout, I felt a little bit hungry, not hungry enough for a full meal, but definitely needing to have some hunger because I didn't want to get too hungry while I'm offering you this material and while we're having our Hangout, because then I might get distracted, I might not be able to concentrate, and so forth. So that's why I made myself my green smoothie, which was just perfect. But you'll also notice that as you eat and drink, your hunger changes. So you might start out hungry, and then you might notice after a few sips, after a few bites, after a plateful or 2 platefuls, that your hunger is changing. You're not as hungry as you were, or maybe you're feeling a little bit more hungry because starting to eat awoken your hunger, your appetite. That could very well happen. And mindful hunger is also knowing how different foods and beverages affect your hunger in the moment and later on. So going back to my green smoothie example, I knew that this green smoothie from experience would be exactly what I needed in this moment to make me comfortable and fully present to hang out with you. But I also knew that in a couple of hours, I would be ready to have another meal or snack. So I knew that if I had eaten something much heavier, then that might last me longer. If I had eaten something lighter, if I maybe just took a few pieces of melon or something and I didn't, use the protein powder and the almond milk, I might find that I'm hungry sooner. And this is fluid. It's not going to be the same every day. It's not going to be the same every hour. But you'll notice it and you'll start to pay attention. And then mindful hunger is knowing that when you are hungry, that you have the opportunity then to eat. And then how you eat and what you eat are other additional mindful eating tools and techniques. But this is mindful hunger. So just take a moment for yourself and just check in. First of all, ask yourself, am I hungry right now? If I am hungry right now, how hungry am I? Are you green smoothie hungry? Are you hamburger and fries hungry? Are you a bite of apple hungry? Are you not hungry at all? Just take a moment. Now let's move on to mindful fullness and satisfaction. Mindful fullness and mindful satisfaction is knowing when you are full and satisfied from both a physical point of view as well as a psychological point of view. Being physically full means that your body has received the amount of food that it needs. Psychologically full means that you're psychologically satisfied too, meaning that you're not looking for more. So it's possible that you're hungry and you grab something to eat. It's not really what your body wants, might not be really what you consciously want, even if you haven't checked in your body, but you eat it anyway. And yeah, you're full, right? Your stomach's not growling anymore. But you're still looking around. What else is there? What else is there? What else can I have? What else can I have? That's a sign to me that what you chose did not satisfy you psychologically. Yeah, your belly might be full, but you might not be psychologically satisfied. Now, there may be moments when you can't have both. You're on your way somewhere. You know you need to eat something because you won't be able to eat again. Let's say you're about to get on a plane. Let's say you won't be able to eat again for 3 or 4 hours. So you eat something, it may not be psychologically satisfying. That's okay, but it fills you, it nourishes you physically. That's great. And then maybe the next time you eat, you could choose something that would be both physically satisfying as well as psychologically. So physically full is a physical sensation. And part of mindful fullness is learning how to know when you're full, how to know when you've had enough. Some people come to mindful eating thinking that they haven't had enough unless they feel really, really full, like that their stomach has expanded. That might be overfull, and that would be something to explore. For me, being physically full means that I'm comfortable. I don't have this gnawing need or this urge to eat more. It's enough, but I'm also not so overstuffed that I don't feel well, that I regret maybe what I just ate. Thanksgiving holiday notwithstanding, most of the time I work towards that moment where I feel like, you know what, I've had enough. Even if there's something left over on my plate, I have learned to allow myself to leave food over. What I've also learned over the years that I have been training myself in mindful eating is I've gotten pretty good at understanding my own unique portions and how much might be appropriate for me at any one time. And that will happen for you too, where you will be able to notice for yourself what the right amount will be. Sometimes it might be bigger, sometimes it might be smaller. So mindful fullness and mindful satisfaction are two skills that you can learn. And again, it comes from checking in with yourself and understanding how your body communicates with you when it's full, when it feels satisfied, when it's hungry, and so forth. The next mindful skill is called mindful choices. And what mindful choices means that you choose mindfully by learning how to tune into your body to decide what exactly your body wants to eat and how much. So it's not just knowing, oh, I'm hungry, it's time to eat, which is very important. That's mindful hunger. Or mindful fullness, I've eaten something, I've had enough, I feel full, I feel satisfied, it's time to stop. But mindful choosing is about learning how to decide exactly what your body wants and how much. And you decide what foods to choose by asking yourself what you want to eat and then imagining what that food will taste and feel like. So I'm going to go back to my green smoothie example because I think it really fits here. When I was recognizing that I had some level of hunger, and that I did want to eat something before hanging out with you guys, that I wanted to, I imagine, well, what did I want? I knew I had some melon left over, and I thought, no, that's not it. And then I thought, well, do I want to scramble up a couple of eggs? I was like, no, I don't want that. I'm not in the mood for eggs. And then the image of the green smoothie popped in my head, and I imagined the green smoothie, and I thought, yes, this is perfect. This is exactly what I need. And I could feel a shift in me, like this knowingness, yeah, this was right. And I went into the kitchen and I prepared it, and well, the rest is history. So what you will learn as you adopt mindful eating skills is really how to read your body, to use your imagination a little bit. How would something taste? How would it feel? Like, how would it feel not just in your mouth while you're eating it or you're chewing it, but how will it feel in your body later? You know, some foods may feel really good in your mouth and going down, but then really hard in your stomach. Maybe some foods might even give you indigestion, and it's really important to be mindful of that. You can always eat food that you know later on might give you a little indigestion, but do it purposefully with intention. I'm going to eat this, I don't know what, hot dog, knowing that sometimes when I eat hot dogs, I get a stomach ache. But I'm willing to risk the stomach ache because right now I'm at a Dodger game or at a Yankee game, and I want a hot dog. Mindful choice, not a problem. So if you choose to adopt mindful eating and to start incorporating some of the skills that I've introduced you to today, and there are more, and when we do the true mindful eating training, we go really deep into all of these, but for the purpose of our Hangout, I just wanted to give you an introduction. But here are some of the things that you can expect if you embrace mindful eating. My favorite, and the one I always start with, is peace with food. If you are a frustrated dieter, if you're an emotional eater, if you have been gaining and losing the same 5, 10, 20, 25, 35, 100 pounds your whole life, that could end now with mindful eating. That you don't have a war anymore with food, that you develop a different relationship. When I talk about mindful eating, and a lot of people come to this saying, oh, I want to lose weight, and I get that. I do. I'm a middle-aged woman and I want to lose weight. But for me and for most of my clients, eventually the transformation really is about the relationship with food. That food is no longer the enemy, that you learn to trust yourself, that yes, you can have some ice cream, but having some ice cream doesn't necessarily lead to a binge. Neither does, if you want a little bit of red meat or you want a lot of red meat, that's all okay. There's this peacefulness, this tranquility, this equanimity that comes about over time, where food loses its charge and you're more neutral with it. I use the example of alcohol for some people. Some people love their wine, love their beer, and other people can take or leave it. If they have a glass of wine, great. If they have a beer, great, but they don't care. That's neutrality. And you can develop that with food. And you may know people who are, holding on to their wine bottles, but could care less about food. So there's this peacefulness and neutrality around food that comes over time with mindful eating. Also, what comes is the weight loss. Many people, as I said, come to mindful eating because they want weight loss. And weight loss is a byproduct. It is not the focus. So if you came here looking for a quick fix, thinking, oh my goodness, this is it. I've got my high school reunion in 6 weeks, and I'm going to drop 20 pounds. I'm sorry, you're in the wrong place. But what mindful eating can do is over time, because you are tuned into your body, whatever eating you have been doing that is above what your body needs to function in its optimal way, that kind of eating is going to go away. So any weight that you're carrying is eventually going to go away also, because you're going to be consuming fewer calories, not because you're following a diet, but because you're paying attention to what your body needs, and your body most likely needs less food than you have been giving it if you're carrying extra weight. But again, this is not about, counting calories or portions or anything like that. It's about allowing the body to be the guide. The other thing another thing I should say that you can expect is no more mindless eating. In fact, even after this little introductory hangout, I think I may have ruined this for you. And I'm sort of like sorry, but not sorry, because now you know too much. Now you're going to catch yourself when you're eating out of habit or out of reaction to something, rather than making a choice for it. And so what will happen is there'll be no more mindless eating. And again, as I said earlier, that doesn't mean you can never have your favorite foods anymore. It also doesn't mean that you can't just grab a bag of chips and eat the bag of chips, but you're going to do it now knowing, with awareness, with consciousness. And what happens for most people when that happens is that they end up eating less anyway. When you add awareness to the eating process and you really notice for most people, once they have permission to eat the bag of chips, don't finish the whole bag of chips. Or if they finish the whole bag of chips, that's the end of it. It doesn't lead to more and more eating, as often happens when people struggle with mindless eating, especially if there's an element of emotional eating thrown into it. And emotional eating means that you eat in response to your emotions rather than to your physical needs. The other thing you can expect is what I call disappointing forbidden foods. And so what happens here is there may be foods that you have denied yourself for a really long time because they're not on your diet. So cheese is one for many people. Like, oh, I can't eat cheese, can't eat cheese, can't eat cheese. Or for you, think about what it might be for you. Maybe you deny yourself pizza, you deny yourself ice cream, you deny yourself spaghetti, whatever it is. When you give yourself permission to eat what you want, when you want it, when it's on purpose and in cooperation with your body's needs, as we mentioned before, what you may discover is some of these foods that you've been coveting, these foods that you have been holding at arm's length because you feel like you can't trust yourself, when you actually sit down and eat them, and you eat them mindfully, meaning with full attention and awareness, and you really taste them, you might be disappointingly surprised that it doesn't taste so good, that pizza's too greasy, the candy bar's too sweet, the potato chips are too salty. And what ends up happening is that foods that you for always thought, oh, I can't keep them around me, I'm a slave to them. If they're in the house, I'm going to eat them. All of a sudden, you're like, you know what? I don't even like these foods. I actually think this is good news. That's why I put it here as something that you can look forward and you can expect. But initially, it is disappointing. And I do talk about grief around foods in the bigger programs on mindful eating, where you really have to come, maybe you have to grieve a little bit that cheese is no longer a favorite food of yours. And another thing that you can look forward to is the idea of less is more. In the Tame Your Appetite programs, we talk about quality over quantity. One of the things that I teach is to really have exactly what you want and to choose the best. So if you like a particular, like a full-fat yogurt rather than a non-fat yogurt, have the full-fat yogurt. What you will discover is that when you choose quality over quantity and you choose the foods that you really want, you will be satisfied with less. And so I call that less is more. And when you're satisfied with less, do the math. You eat less. When you eat less, you're taking in less calories than your body needs. If you're taking in less calories than your body needs, any weight that you might be carrying that doesn't belong there will start to shed off. So these are some of the things that you can expect. Now, to know if you ate mindfully, let's say you just had a meal or a snack and you want to know, well, did I do this right? Ask yourself these questions. Was I distracted while eating, or was my primary focus on my food? If you were distracted while you were eating and you weren't aware of your distractions in particular, that's more mindless. But if you're focusing, if you just take the 5 minutes, it doesn't really take that long. If you have a sandwich for lunch, you really could shut down the computer, move to a different part of the desk, or move to a different room, sit down, take you about 5, maybe 7 minutes to eat a little sandwich, right? And then come back. Primary focus is on food. That's mindful eating. Was I aware of what I was eating? Meaning, were you paying attention, or were you just gobbling down the food? Paying attention is mindful. Just gobbling down the food, not so much. Did you taste the food? I used to be a really fast eater. I'm still a little bit of a fast eater, but I've definitely slowed down. And as a fast eater, I wouldn't taste really the food. You taste the food maybe the first bite or two, and then it's just going in. And part of it was because I was also doing a lot of other things. I was a really great multitasker. And so becoming a mindful eater has actually forced me, and I'm using air quotes, you can't see me, but kind of forced me to take a break and eat without distraction. And I taste my food better, I eat less, and I enjoy it more. Next question, did I know when to stop, or did I stop when there was no more food? This is an element of mindful fullness. So stopping when there's still food left over is a skill. Most people serve themselves something and that they're serving and they're not full until they can finish the whole serving. Well, maybe, maybe not. And as I mentioned, that as you get proficient and better and better and better at mindful eating, you actually learn how to serve yourself appropriate serving sizes so that you might stop when there is no more food, but not because you've just cleaned the plate, but because you served yourself the right amount for your body's needs in those moments. And that will come over time. Did you enjoy what you ate? I hope so. Part of mindful eating is giving yourself permission to eat foods that you enjoy. Before I learned mindful eating, I would instruct my clinical psychology patients that if they wanted to binge on the best food, the foods they really enjoyed, and celebrate it. Set the table, put the ice cream or the chips or whatever into a beautiful bowl, and really, really just, lick every bowl. Lick your fingers from the chips and, lick the spoon from the ice cream to really enjoy what you ate. The more you enjoy your food, you will find over time, the less you eat. It's interesting. Did you feel satisfied psychologically, or were you still looking around and want something else? Did you feel nourished? Like, you know what? That was good. That was exactly right. That was what my body needed. Good for me. And if you don't feel nourished, you didn't feel satisfied, the question to ask is, then what do I need? And that may lead you into the piece of mindful eating that we're not going to talk about in this introduction, and that is about emotional eating. My perspective is that when you eat, when you are not physically hungry, whether it's just that extra fry that's on the plate, even though you know you're already full, you've checked in with your mindful fullness, or you come home, you had a fight with your coworker, you're feeling agitated, you go straight to the refrigerator and you start eating. That is emotional eating. And so the question to ask then is, what do I really need? What am I really hungry for? And that can be a webinar or a hangout at another time. And I'll keep you posted on that. Be sure that you're on my mailing list so you'll learn about when those kind of webinars, what we're calling hangouts, happen. And then finally, can I easily move on to something else, or do I still feel the urge to eat? If you can still move on to something else, then most likely you ate properly, you fed your body, you fed your heart, your soul, your mind, you can move on. If you still feel the urge to eat, the question becomes, did you choose a large enough portion? Maybe you served yourself just too small a portion and you're still physically hungry. Then eat and then be mindful of that. Or were you not satisfied? So you're looking around, or are you experiencing some sort of emotion and you just want to eat? You just want to keep eating because you want to quell the emotion. So these are some questions you can ask yourself to understand if you are mindfully eating. Now I'd like to offer you 7 steps to eating mindfully. And from today forward, I would encourage you to practice these steps as often as possible. The more you practice them, the better you'll get. And these might be all you need to become a mindful eater, just repeating these 7 steps each time you choose to eat or drink something. Here they are. When you prepare to eat something, do the following. Number 1, take a moment and get centered. Breathe. Focus your attention on this eating event. And I'm calling it an eating event because it could be a meal, it could be a snack. You could even take those labels away, meal and snack away, and just say, I'm eating now. It's an eating event. Number 2 is then you want to check in with your hunger and your fullness and note them. How hungry do I feel? How full do I feel? Just note them. Number 3, observe the food you've chosen to eat. Just look at it. If you have a sandwich in front of you, look at it. What does it look like? What does it feel like? Is it on a hard roll or a soft roll? Is it is it in a pita? Is it in like a tortilla roll, like a wrap? What does it feel like? What does it smell like? Just for a moment. You don't have to take a lot of time with this. Just put your attention on the food. What is in front of me? Step 4 is to think about all it took to get this food to you. We take a lot of things for granted, and, we live in a Western society and we get a lot of wonderful things handed to us. And yet it takes a lot. That sandwich that's in front of you, that took farmers to grow the wheat, for example, manufacturers to turn the wheat into the bread, the transportation vehicles for the bakers who made the bread to bring the bread to the store. Then the store clerks have to put the bread onto the shelves. Then after you've collected it, you'd have to take them, go to the cashier and pay for it. There's a lot of people involved in getting you the bread that made your sandwich. Part of mindful eating is noticing that, is recognizing the interconnection of all of it, the fact that we're all in this together, that there's a lot for us to feel grateful for, and to just take a moment and thank them for their participation. Many cultures have gratitude or thankfulness or grace as part of an eating ritual. And this is an example of that, or this is a piece of that, where you just experience some gratitude for what you have in front of you. Then you eat your food and try to eat it slowly, paying attention to how it feels and tastes in your mouth. And pay attention to when and if the taste changes. And you may notice that taste does change. What we know about taste, and in my bigger programs, we talk about mindful taste as well as mindful hunger. Excuse me. And with taste, the first few bites of anything, the first few sips of anything, the taste buds are the freshest and they are the most sensitive to the flavors. But taste buds become desensitized actually very quickly. And so those later bites may not be as satisfying and as flavorful as those first few bites. So pay attention to that. That may cause you to stop eating. Like you might be eating half your sandwich and about halfway through you go, you know what, it's not tasting good anymore. If you chose not to finish the sandwich now but waited until later when you were hungry again, that sandwich will taste good again. The second half of the sandwich will taste as good as the first half did because you're eating it now when you are hungry again and your taste buds have come back to life. Number 6 is to check in again with your hunger and fullness signals. And to the best of your ability, stop when you're full. And if that means leaving food over, know that you can always eat that food again, and know that when you do eat that food again, it will taste better than it tastes right now because you'll be hungry for it. And step number 7 is at the end of your eating event, give yourself credit for all the mindful efforts that you made, whatever they were. Even if it's just halfway through your sandwich, you go, oh, I have to be mindful. And in that moment you were mindful, give yourself credit. And as I said before, if you practice these steps often, you will definitely get the hang of it. You don't have to use them every time you eat, but the more often you use them, the more mindful your eating will become. And that will make things, your mindful eating will become more second nature. And then you don't have to think about it so much. And that's when you know you're there. And I cannot tell you, there's one question just popped up. How long will that take? I'm going to get to questions in a moment, but I'll answer this one. I can't answer that, how quickly it will take. I've been studying mindful eating myself now for several years. There are times when I'm rock solid and I'm on it, and there are other times when I slip, and that's just the nature of the beast. But I'm more mindful most of the time. So for me, that's good. I always say it's what you do most of the time that matters, and so I'm practicing being a mindful eater most of the time, and that for me is an outstanding goal. Okay. Before we get to the questions and answers, let me just tell you a little bit about my big program, Tame Your Appetite. This is a complete 12-session program. This 12-session program teaches the practices and approaches from MB Eat and other mindfulness-based practices that support mindful eating and also mindful living. So we go a little bit beyond just the food. In this program, through the mindful eating practices that you will learn to pay attention to what your body really needs and why it needs it. You'll learn how to experience the full pleasure and taste of food without overeating. And you'll learn how to release the guilt and struggle that is so often associated with eating. That will come over time with mindful eating, especially when you do a really deep, intensive kind of program like this complete 12-session program. When you finish the 12-session program, you'll have a personal understanding, experiential learning, and a new relationship to mindfulness and mindful eating practices. You will also know how to use a variety of mindfulness and mindful eating practices, information, and tools, and how to apply all of that to all aspects of your life. Now, when I do these programs, I limit them to 20 participants, and I do that for maximum comfort and learning. This is very experiential. We will be doing mindful eating exercises in it. So when it gets beyond 20, it gets unwieldy because I want people to participate, not just observe. So I do limit the programs to 20. The sessions are held here on the Zoom in my room in Zoom. And each session is about 2 hours long. If we have a full 20 participants, it might go to 2.5. If we have fewer, then it might be a little bit less, but it's about 2 hours because we really do a lot in these sessions. If you're interested in learning more, go to the website, www.tameyourappetite.com. There you can see exactly what the 12-session program is. I break down what each and every session is about so you can really see what we do. And then if you have an interest in it, there's a link for you to email me and we can get the process going. If the 12-session feels overwhelming, it's too much, don't worry. I've got other things that might help you. I have taken the 12-session program and I have reduced it to something called the 5-step program, which I also offer through Zoom. You can find that information on the program page in the website for Tame Your Appetite. I also have an exclusive mentoring program. This is one-on-one. The other programs are very specific and are usually taught in group sessions, although I can do them as individual. The exclusive mentoring program doesn't follow the 12 sessions or the 5 steps. What I do with the exclusive mentoring program is I create a program uniquely to you, based on exactly where you're stuck, what your needs are, and then we employ mindful eating tools and techniques. So it's a very specific, unique program designed especially for you. That's a 3-month program. There are other resources for you in the shop on the Tame Your Appetite website. You'll see a bunch of free reports. You'll see some audio programs. You'll see some audio-visual programs. There's links to my books, some ebooks. There's a lot of great stuff there, some of it free, others very low cost. Great way to learn more about mindful eating. And then coming soon, I have now a school opening called Tame Your Appetite. It's on a website called teachable.com. And there will be these 2 programs. The 5-step program will be an online self-study. The 12th session will also be an online self-study. And then there will also be 4 or 5, like 1-hour self-study programs on emotional overeating and on mindful eating. So other ways for you to learn more about mindful eating if you don't want to take the big program or you'd like to work on this on your own. All right, questions and answers. What time is it? Oh, we still have 10 minutes, 9 minutes. That's good. Excuse me, I just took a sip from my green smoothie. Did you hear that? So good. All right, here's the first question. I have been an emotional overeater my entire life. What's the difference between mindless and emotional eating? This is a very good question. In many ways, they're the same in the sense that you are eating without regard for physical hunger. But usually when I talk about mindless eating, it's more sort of the habitual eating with distraction and then not noticing that you finished. You know, you ate that whole sandwich because you were working on a report on your computer and all of a sudden you go to reach down to have another bite, no more sandwich. That's mindless eating. Emotional eating is when you have some form of an emotional reaction. You're feeling anxious or angry or sad or depressed. And you reach for food to comfort yourself. You reach for food to cope with it. That's emotional eating. When you do the 5-step program or the 12-session program, we do a lot of work on emotional overeating. And we use meditation and other techniques to interrupt the automatic behavior that's involved with emotional eating. We create a pause between the emotion and the reaction, between the emotion and the eating. And it's in that pause, then you create choice. And there are other things that you can do. If you want to get a jump start on that, I have my book, The Best Diet Begins in Your Mind. You can find it on Amazon, also on my Tame shop. And that addresses 8 emotions that people eat in response to and what else you can do. It's a little book. It's a lovely book. I also have Do You Use Food to Cope, which is a 15-week program that also can help with emotional overeating. So there are resources for you. Next question. My husband and I are both overweight. Can we do your programs together? Oh, I love this question. And I'll tell you why I love this question, because most of the time I get the opposite question. The question is, my husband won't do this with me. What do I do? So my answer to you is, please, of course, you and your husband can do the programs together. So whether you are in the same group for one of the 12-session programs or the 5-step programs, or you want me to do work with you guys as a couple, absolutely. I think it's wonderful that the two of you want to work together. So great, that's great. And just shoot me an email and I'll be happy to talk to you about that a little bit more. Okay, what time? We still have a few minutes. I'm going through these, just some of these are repetitive. I'm just looking for the ones that might be, there's a few of them asking the same question. Oh, I love this one. Do I have to meditate? Well, no, of course not. You don't have to meditate. But meditation is a primary tool for the Tame Your Appetite programs, because what mindfulness meditation in particular does is it creates that pause. What I was talking about a moment ago in response to one of the other questions about interrupting the automatic reaction. I feel an emotion, I'm going to eat, create a pause, which then creates choice. Through a mindfulness-based meditation practice, you naturally develop the ability to create that pause. And when you create that pause, you create choice. And once you create choice, then you have power. So do you have to meditate? No. But it is a primary tool, primary foundation for mindfulness, for mindful eating. And I would encourage you to start, to just try. Okay, we have time for maybe one more. Oh, how do I start meditating? Okay, so there are apps that you can join, like Insight Timer is a really good one, Headspace, Calm, where you can get guided meditations. You can also just sit down, set a timer for a minute. When the timer goes off, you've meditated. I have in my shop a 5-minute meditation. I also have on my YouTube channel, which is Tame Your Appetite, a 30-day jump start. And in that 30-day jump start, there's a video each day. And over the course of 30 days, I take it up to a 15-minute meditation. So that's another way to start. And let me choose one more question. Let's see which one is good. Oh, they're all good. Oh, I wish I had time for all of them. Okay. What if I'm uncomfortable leaving food on my plate? I hear that one a lot. A lot of people just feel there's a sense of deprivation that comes when you leave food over. And a lot of times it's not the broccoli that you feel bad about, leaving broccoli over most of the time. It's leaving over, you're eating cheeseburger and fries and you didn't quite finish all the cheeseburger, or pizza, or other kind of junk-like food. And for many people, the idea of leaving food behind, not finishing all of it, comes from an internalized sense of deprivation. Like, I feel deprived, I can't eat this food, I finally have it in front of me, I'm going to finish it. I don't know if that's what's going on for you, for who asked the question, but deprivation is an emotion. So when you're eating that extra bite of the pizza, or you're finishing the cheeseburger, even though you're not physically hungry for it, from my perspective, you're eating for emotional reasons. You're most likely eating because you're feeling deprived. So the question to ask yourself, if I'm feeling deprived, what do I feel deprived about in my life in general? And then see if you can meet that need. So if, let's say, your best friend moved away and you're feeling deprived of friendship, see if you can start building some new relationships. All right, we're almost at the end of our hour. Don't have time for more Q&A, but please send me your questions. I'll do my very best to answer them. If I can't answer them directly, maybe I'll answer them in a blog or social media post. So I will do my best to give you the information that you want. So once again, this is me, Dr. Sheila. I've been helping people with food and weight issues for over 20 years. If you want to learn more, please go to the website, tameyourappetite.com. And my final disclaimer, I mentioned this at the very beginning while we were waiting for people to come, but I am licensed to practice psychology in the state of California. But mindful eating, this mindful eating program, is not a therapeutic protocol. This is psychoeducational coaching. So please know that no psychotherapist-patient relationship has been established by either the material that I presented here, or if you decide to participate in the program. So we are circling the 1-hour mark. I want to thank you all for taking the time to hang out with me. I hope that you enjoyed this introduction to mindful eating. Please know that you can find me through my website. Be sure to join my newsletter. You can find me on LinkedIn, Instagram, what else? Twitter, Facebook. I have a Facebook group, Tame Your Appetite Facebook group. Please apply to become a member of that group. That's going to be a wonderful group. It is starting to grow now, so it's very exciting. And you can also always email me through the website. I try to be as accessible as I can. So that's all the time we have for this Hangout. Thank you so much for participating. I really appreciate it. I will be doing future Hangouts starting in January 2020. I'm going to be doing 2 Hangouts a month. I'll be doing introductory ones like this, but then each month I'm going to have a topic of the month where we're going to do a little bit deeper dive into things like meditation and mindful fullness and hunger and all the rest of that. So I hope that you can join me there. All right, well, thank you again for participating. I hope that you enjoyed this Hangout, and I hope we get a chance to meet again, either in line or in person. Thanks again for being here.